Shalom, I'm Rabbi Gail Schuster-Buskila, and today I'd like to talk to you about Parashat Beshalach, which is the fourth Torah portion in the book of Exodus. And it is, as we say, a doozy. And I'm going to tell you that this is not exactly a spiritual, reverent discussion of what I called in my Midrash an epic emancipation. There's something here that we need to know, and there is no historical, nor can there be any true historical information about something that happened so many thousands of years ago, and as they say, it's impossible to find footprints in the sand. There's no way to know how many people came out with Moses, and there's no way to know if there wasn't exactly a route, if it was on the northern part of the Sinai, or the southern, or the middle, or some crazy combination. And then I am not connected so much, shall we say, to volcanoes that explode and that create tsunamis. And then there's another little problem. In English, this crossing of the sea is called the Red Sea. Well, that is quite a large sea, and it has almost nothing to do with the Hebrew Yam Suf, which is a reed sea. If it isn't even a yam, in other words, it's a body of water. Now, there are all sorts of bodies of water today at the end of the Nile, supposedly where people were living, the Jewish people were living. I can't tell you if that's exactly true. And then we get down to the bottom line. Is it necessary to believe this? My feeling is that this is a myth of epic proportion. I'll go into that in a minute. But if it is a myth that's important to us in our history, I've asked the question, why remember such a terrible event? An event, A, after years and years of slavery, B, after people had suffered so much, C, the fear and trembling they must have had as they got to the edge of that sea. Okay, they got past it, and then, according to the account in the book of Exodus, they watched the Egyptians die. And if this is the case, I have a problem. I think everyone has a problem with this, is that somehow or other, the children of Israel, they were saved, whereas the Egyptians were not. Of course, this is 21st century values talking to you right here, and it doesn't necessarily mean much when it comes to the values of the people that wrote the Bible. And there again, we have a discussion as to when that was written, if you don't believe these are the divine words or the divinely inspired words that Moses wrote down on Mount Sinai, which I'm sorry to tell you, if you are of that point of view, I don't know if we have much to say. But if you believe in myths and legends that have powers to teach and tell us things, then this is one of the most important parashot of the year. I absolutely had to begin this introduction to Parashat Beshalach with this wonderful image that is created from the movie 10 Commandments from 1956, the Hollywood version. It truly is a mythic depiction of the splitting of the Red Sea, or Reed Sea, whichever you believe. Of course, I'm not going to be dealing with the entire Parashat Beshalach, and I do highly recommend reading the entire parasha on Sefaria, where the Hebrew and the English are put one next to the other. I'll connect the title of my of the title of my Midrash, which is called Epic Emancipation, with the title of this introduction of mythic importance, because I believe that this is where we are. We're in the middle of a narration of one of the greatest legends, stories that has ever been written, in my estimation. I would like to say something about the translation, both my translation as well as the translation from the Sefaria, that we agree that this is the Sea of Reeds. So if it's the Sea of Reeds, who knows where this could be? But what I like to show you is from the National Library of Israel. The fact is that we have wonderful maps that you can access through here. This happens to be under the title of Calculating Out a New Route, the Exodus from Egypt in Maps and Drawings. But I like to emphasize that there is no accurate record of the points along the route, not even for the Exodus directly out of Egypt. I've read and I've heard many people try and scientifically or archaeologically, but this is really not going to happen, put these things in place. I would like to say that this is my favorite map that was from 1562, and it's a London map, and it just is fabulous. We don't know where Goshen is. You see it's down here. Maybe it's the left of the Nile, maybe, in other words, the east or the west or the north. South would put it way far too down. Whatever it is a fantastic drawing, and as far as I'm concerned, about as realistic as anything we could possibly find. I would also like to show you that in Wikipedia they also have to agree, although they use the word Red Sea, but the Red Sea, and if you're going to look at geography, I suggest you look at all the geography, you will see that the Red Sea isn't exactly what was probably what was thought of as being crossed. And of course you see no archaeological scholarly verified evidence has been found that confirms the crossing of the Red Sea ever took place. Read, it just is a myth. There may be people that are discouraged by that right now. I find that to be amazing, that a story of this kind of proportion could be emanating for thousands of years from this people who at that point had been slaves. So I'd like to begin from verse 17 of Parashat Beshalach, and I think it is one of my favorite. Maybe I have too many favorites, but I love it. So we're beginning here. So it was when Pharaoh released the people. 18, verse 18. God directed the people through the desert to the Reed Sea. Yahweh went before them in a pillar of cloud by day to guide them on the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to illuminate their travel day and night. Illustrious myth of emancipations. We are slaves no longer, not sure of anything yet. We are just a people looking for freedom. We did not expect miracles, but when they began to appear around us, we were part of an astonishing spectacle, which it is behind us and in front of us, all at the same moment, swirling columns of energy, enormous in magnitude, whirl around us, former slaves. Besides this wonderful animation of the parting of the Red Sea, you see Moses here with his staff parting the Red Sea. I think there are other things that I'd like to show you. First of all, we have from the 1630s a wonderful crossing of the Red Sea by Nicholas Poussin. He's a Belgium artist. And we actually see people pulling things out of the sea that obviously were washed up onto the shore by the Egyptians having drowned. These aren't things that the children of Israel would have brought with them. And you see this sort of pillar of cloud is before them. I talked about things swirling. This is a lovely example of the idea of the swirling energies. Here, of course, is a different kind of a pillar. This is the pillar of fire. There's supposed to be a pillar of cloud, a pillar of fire. Here is an angel. This is by Van den Broek in the 16th century, a magnificent crossing of the sea. We don't really see what's going to happen totally, but we pretty much know that these Egyptians aren't going to make it, as the sea will close in on them. And over here you see the women dancing already for the Song of the Sea that Miriam leads the women to sing and dance to. I had to put in the Prince of Egypt, obviously, because the amazing animation of the 1998 film, and here, of course, again, is the Prince of Egypt, which is Moses with his staff, and he does some amazing pyrotechnics with this parting of the sea. It's a magnificent image. But I wanted to reconsider the ideas by Professor James L. Kugel in this book, The Great Shift, Encountering God in Biblical Times. What did the first audience of these stories assume about God and about seeing that made these accounts seem plausible and even realistic? If one considers as a whole the Bible's various narration of people's encounters with the divine, a definite pattern emerges. Not in every case, to be sure, but in quite a few. The people involved suddenly meet up with God. But this is not normal seeing. We talked about miracles before. Miracles don't happen in general, at least in my experience, on a day-to-day basis. As we see here in my Midrash, I've quoted from verse 31 of Exodus 14. I've gone ahead here. Israel saw the great gesture that Yahweh did in Egypt. The people were in awe of Yahweh, so they trusted in Yahweh and Moses, his servant. My Midrash continues, incredulous, we are on the other side of the sea, so we are driven to sing. Exodus 15, then Moses and the children of Israel sang this song to Yahweh. They said this, I will sing for Yahweh's glorious triumphs. The horse and rider were hurled into the sea. My Midrash. First we were driven to sing by our leader Moses, and then led to dance by our prophet Miriam. Verse 20 of Exodus 15. Miriam, the prophetess, sister of Aaron, took a tambourine in her hand, and she and all of the women came after her with drums and dancing. My Midrash again. This song still rings in the ears of those who listen. These words will resonate out of time and space. Steps reverberate in and out of history, joining with the cosmic dance of all oppressed people who seek freedom. There's much more to my Midrash than what I've read to you today, certainly much more from Parashat Beshalach. And when I think of things that are mythical and epical in size, I think of this wonderful piece by Aaron Copland, Fanfare for the Common Man. I would say human, but that was a different time when he wrote this. So I will leave links to a lot of the things that I've shown you today, and I hope that you will take the time to go back to read my entire Midrash, which will also be linked below, and then listen to this great piece of music. I'm leaving with you this wonderful image of this drawing from the 16th century of the Exodus. This weekend, this Shabbat is called Shabbat Shira because of the song sung by the children of Israel after they got through the Red or Reed Sea. Shabbat Shira, Shabbat Beshalach, Shabbat Shalom.